Hello everyone, I am Julian Morris with the Channel 5 News. In the headlines, local reparations committee outraged at the police killing of African-American George Floyd. The first group of Dominican students to arrive here on Tuesday, and successful community screening for COVID-19 expected to influence the reopening of the country's borders. The details of the news coming up.
Away $30,000 in cash, oh, yeah. 2 bags of money plus a grand every Friday.
We're flowing down every day, and now we're making Fridays great. That's 3 ways that you can play. So listen up.
Top up.
$10 or more.
Sign up.
Just switch the flow.
Get a plan.
1 gig or more. If you want to win cash galore.
We flow.
Win a bag of money.
Cash out.
Get a bag of money. What you gonna do with a bag of money? Yeah. From Flow.
So top up, get a plan, or switch now to win. It only gets better with Flow.
Flow terms and conditions apply.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts, with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
First up with the news, the Dominica Reparations Committee is expressing outrage at the public killing of a U.S. citizen, George Floyd, at the hands of police last month. Chairman of the committee, Dr. Damian Dublin, says the committee is pleased with growing global support in the call for the necessary change to wipe out systemic racism in the United States and around the world.
The Dominica Reparations Committee notes with elation the ever-growing support solidarity within the USA and at a global level, and is particularly pleased with the African continent leaders' reactions. As a people with a proven history of resilient resistance, survival, perseverance, and achievements under the unethical, racialized system of chattel slavery, transatlantic slave trade, and native genocide over centuries, we pay homage and recognize the sacrifice of the fallen heroes. We step forward and forge on, confident that the ultimate victory to overcome these dehumanizing obstacles, thus enabling us to breathe freely.
In an address released to local media on Monday, Mr. Dublin also took the opportunity to call for reparations for oppressed people around the world.
We echo the call for sustained unity and on common and bigger, impactful issues. In solidarity with our brothers and sisters on the front lines in the USA and all oppressed and racially discriminated peoples around the world, we demand reparations now.
In other news now, the first group of Dominican students expected to arrive home around lunchtime on Tuesday on 2 Silver Airlines flights. The Minister for Education says various government ministries collaborated to bring the students back home.
One flight will leave Fort Lauderdale with 50 students. Although the flight has a capacity of 70, regulations require that only 50 can embark on the spot. This flight will arrive in San Juan at 10:30 for refueling. There, another 20 students will embark for Dominica. If all goes well, this group of students will arrive home around midday.
At 1 p.m. on Tuesday, another group of 30 students will leave San Juan for Dominica.
These students will be expected to follow the protocols which are in place for arrival in Dominica. They will require to wear a mask and exercise hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette. They will be required to complete screening to include a COVID-19 test and assessment by medical health authorities. They will serve a 14-day quarantine in the government facility at which they will be responsible for their essential hygiene and personal supplies during the quarantine period. For example, their toothpaste, toothbrushes, etc. They will be expected to adhere to the additional quarantine guidelines as advised by the health authorities. Groups of students from Canada, Barbados, Trinidad, China, the United Kingdom, and other countries will be facilitated by the 24th of June. This is so because the quarantine period for the first group of students will end on June 23rd, and adequate time is required for the facility to be thoroughly cleaned and prepared for the other group of students.
Some of the students who are on their final year of studies will not be required to return.
The Ministry of Education advised that students will be responsible for their return travel to their respective place of study for the new academic year. Our only challenge at this point is that some students who had previously indicated that they did not want to come home, and students who did not fill in the fact-finding form provided online by the Ministry of Education, are now expressing interest in coming home. We will take the data of these students and try our best to facilitate them as soon as we possibly can. However, we must deal with the students who have been inquiring and waiting to return home first.
In more news now, a number of activities undertaken to ensure the preservation of the environment should a natural disaster impact the country. Andrea Louis explains.
This from Chairman of the Environmental Protection and Pollution Subcommittee of NEPO, who is also the Director of Forestry, Minchinton Burton. This subcommittee is responsible for safeguarding the natural environment before and after any natural disaster to limit incidents of pollution following such an event. Mr. Burton says field visits to various sites and business places is a key role of the committee to ensure the reduction of pollution following a disaster.
Ensure that some of the petrol companies, for instance, have what we call that, simulation, within to ensure, for instance, a major storm that the level of protection to make sure that there are no oil spill or gas leakages, etc. Or so sometimes the committee would go and visit some of that in advance to make sure that everything is in order based on the plan that they give us. We've done some field visits also in terms of looking at certain areas where you have garbage disposal, blocking certain areas to see, and then have the relevant authorities, solid waste liaise with. We also have the city council, for instance, on that committee, Portsmouth Town Council, so we can liaise with local government areas where you have that might possibly cause environmental issues that they can move in, environmental health, etc.
Improved guidelines were developed because of the devastation caused by Hurricane Maria. However, the COVID-19 pandemic is also playing a part in tweaking the disaster preparedness plan of all business places.
So we're asked now to even incorporate COVID planning within our disaster plan. So we ensure that every organization has disaster plans, update them every year, and every organization within the subcommittee has to report on their disaster plans. We have certain discussion, generally speaking, as to what can be, incorporated, etc. Generally speaking, assist them as much as possible. So post Hurricane Maria, for instance, a lot of some of the let's take one of the petrol companies, Petrocarrier, for instance, they've had to based on the experiences in Maria, the government intervened they got a major damage from the river right there, So I think it was a learning experience, and also with COVID now, you have issue of social distancing, you have all these things have to be incorporated in some of the planning now. So all of these are some of the discussions that we have in.
The Environmental Protection and Pollution Subcommittee is also involved in public awareness and educating the public on how to mitigate against hazards. Andrea Louis, Channel 5 News.
And community-based screening for COVID-19 has come to an end. In fact, it ended last Thursday. A total of 1,086 individuals in 618 households were screened. Testing cohorts for COVID-19 in Dominica currently include returning nationals, healthcare workers, and suspected individuals.
The screening method included checking of temperature, administering a questionnaire regarding signs and symptoms in the recent past, and finally testing for the presence of antibodies using rapid test kits. And I'm happy to say that 99% of the participants were non-reactive to the rapid test. Only 2 were reactive to the rapid test, and subsequently they were negative using confirmatory PCR testing. Additionally, we identified a case with a fever, but they were negative also for COVID virus. A final analysis of this study will be submitted to the ministry in due time, and hopefully this will assist in the decision-making process.
Important decisions like how quickly Dominica's borders are reopened depend on the recommendations of health authorities. The number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 remains at 18.
The 2 new cases are Dominican citizens working on a cruise line who recently repatriated to Dominica. They were part of a larger group who were screened using rapid test kits on the ship prior to arriving in Dominica. And these 2 individuals were positive on the screening test. On arrival, they were escorted from the ship to the isolation unit as per national protocol. In keeping with the testing strategy for the repatriated cruise line workers, they were swabbed to confirm their COVID-19 status using the PCR method. Upon receiving positive results, these 2 individuals were transferred to the COVID center at the Dominica, China Friendship Hospital.
The 31-year-old male and 32-year-old female, both asymptomatic, are reportedly doing well with no underlying medical conditions. You are watching Channel 5 News. We'll have more after this.
Avec Flow, animateur on top up, sign up, quittez yo, every video join Flow. It only gets better with Flow.
Flow terms and conditions apply.
A new in-home experience is here. All your services bundled into one simple plan. Faster, more reliable Wi-Fi so that you can binge, play, and stream uninterrupted. Unlimited Flow local landline minutes mean you can talk and talk and talk. Plus the best in TV entertainment with over 120 channels and 29 in HD, all for $160 a month with the new all-in bundle. With Flow, it only gets better.
Thank you for staying with us. The OECS Competitive Business Unit is working to position entrepreneurs around the region to go the digital route for business security. Here again is Andrea Louis with more.
The OECS CBU looks out for the interests of those in the creative industries and has been lending support however possible during the COVID-19 pandemic. To date, the unit has conducted several webinars with members of the creative industries to determine how best to assist them. Technical specialist with the OECS CBU, Ricardo James, says risk management is one area in which the unit is advising artists.
One of the areas that we have identified is the whole issue of risk management and risk management at the enterprise level. But I think there's also the issue of risk management at the national level and regional level. It is very important for risk, identifying of risk, to be factored into planning at the enterprise level, for example. So this is one area that from our survey, but also from understanding, that's an important element of management, that support will be needed. So how you manage risk, how do you identify it, how do you plan for it? And linked to that, of course, is the whole issue of recovery and business continuity.
The unit and the entrepreneurs which it caters to are becoming more conscious of the need to embrace and advance the use of digital platforms to conduct business.
We ourselves waking up to the need for becoming more digital, transforming into the digital economy. So that means making better use of digital platforms. So there's going to be need for support and assistance and training on how to use virtual platforms for meetings, how to implement IT infrastructure that allows access to your files in the cloud, so that it's not only COVID, but even hurricane or any other natural disaster that prevents you from going to your office. So business continuity is also another very important area of support and training.
Mr. James is also encouraging businesses to stay visible to clients to make the post-COVID recovery easier.
We have also been seeking to advise our MSMEs remaining in contact with your customers, remaining visible, so not becoming silent or withdrawn. So finding ways to engage your stakeholders through social media platforms. Finding ways to, if you can, offer your services online. We see a number of businesses doing delivery services, if they can, of their in terms of restaurants, supermarkets as well.
The Environmental Health Department has taken steps to address the language barrier with non-English speaking owners of hair salons and barbershops. The department was expected to issue the social distancing guidelines and protocols to these business owners in their native language, whether Spanish or Haitian Creole, this week.
The restaurants, snackets, spas, gyms, hair salons, barbershops, and a few public and private businesses that still continue to operate. The purpose for monitoring is to ensure that the guidelines and protocols given by the Ministry of Health are adhered to. Throughout the week, environmental health officers have been visiting the above-mentioned establishment at least twice a day and for a few hours on Saturdays. On visit, the owners were given the guidelines. Officers have observed at hair salons, barbershops, and spas the practice of hand sanitizing upon entering the establishment. Signage were posted informing clients of physical distancing, wearing of masks upon entry. The number of customers serviced at one time has also significantly decreased to allow for social distancing inside the establishment. Added to these guidelines, Environmental Health Department strongly advises owners and operators, especially hair salons, barbershops, gyms, and spas, to sanitize equipment and surfaces after each use of customers.
The department says it has observed that customers accessing some private businesses do not practice social distancing while waiting for service. As a result, it has issued a call for the cooperation of all concerned. Meantime, environmental health officers at all ports of entry continue to monitor all incoming passengers. Students and other nationals are expected back home this week. Authorities want to ensure COVID-19 is not imported back into the country as the borders reopen.
The Maritime Declaration of Health documents of all vessels are received electronically at least 12 to 24 hours in advance prior to arrival, where the health status of the crew and its members are reviewed before entry. The agent will advise the captain, and they should proceed to the port of entry for clearance from port officials.
And in sports, the Soufriere domino team Golden Arms have been practicing much more than social distancing lately. Delvin Esri reports it was evident in how they performed in one of their first competitions since the COVID-19 pandemic.
Golden Arms from Soufriere has booked a spot to the grand finals of the El Dorado and Soca Rum Island-wide domino competition. They defeated Team of the Rebels by 385 points. Final scores: Golden Arms 4,000, Rebels 3,715. The boys from the south was led by the captain Roy Caesar and Randall Robinson with 1,755 points, Ian Lazar and Lester Morrow with 820 points, and Junior Gervais and Stevenson Shaolin Reese with 780 points. For Rebels, Ian Roberts and Lisa Boston top scored with 1,099 points, and Jim Nelson and Blaise with 1,082 points. Golden Lambs will now play Wake Up Session Portsmouth in the grand finals on Sunday. Both teams have played undefeated in the competition so far. Delvin Esper reporting.
Away $30,000 in cash, 2 bags of money plus a grand every Friday.
With Flow is better every day, and now we're making Fridays great. That's 3 ways that you can play. So listen up.
Top up.
$10 or more.
Sign up.
Just switch to Flow.
Get a plan.
1 gig or more. If you wanna win cash galore.
With Flow.
Win a bag of money.
Cash out.
Get a bag of money. What you gonna do with a bag of money? Yeah. From Flow.
So top up, get a plan, or switch now to win. It only gets better with Flow.
Flow terms and conditions apply.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 7 days of unlimited social messaging, 3 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, 700 local anywhere calls and texts, with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $29. Keep your number when you switch to Dominica's most reliable LTE network. Buy wherever you top up. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
To end the news, a look again at the headlines. Local Reparations Committee outraged at the police killing of African-American George Floyd. The first group of Dominican students to arrive here on Tuesday, and successful community screening for COVID-19 expected to influence the reopening of the country's borders. You may access our news on our YouTube channel. On behalf of the production team, I am Julian Morris. Thank you for watching. Join us tomorrow.